girl. You're getting it. Adira and I have been doing a lot of work on the homework our behaviorist has given us to help her build confidence outside of her stall and paddock, and now it is time to add on to that. There's still a lot of work to do in terms of taking her behind the barn, but she is starting to get brave in front of the barn and in the arena, and so this is a good time to start working with her when she's in a more calm state to start teaching her some basic behaviors. She's very green. Even though she's 12 years old, she didn't have to do a lot in her home that she was at for the most of her life. And even though I plan to keep her for the rest of her life, and there's not a lot of expectations on her here, she still, for my safety, needs to know some basic skills, and even skills she doesn't need to know how to do here. I want to teach her how to do that because that ensures the safety of anybody that might be handling her. And, you know, for some reason if life happens and she has to move on, then it also ensures her safety because she's a horse that knows how to do the basics. But we are really starting at the basics. Now, because she is absolutely terrified of my carrot sticks, I can't do a lot of the traditional stuff with her just yet. We need to sort of counter condition that fear on the carrot stick, and that is, we are nowhere near that. I don't have that level of trust with her. But she is really good with the clicker, and so I am starting to take her through a positive reinforcement training program. We are starting at the very foundation. One of the things that I get a lot of people getting upset about on my reels is that I work with food. And I had somebody the other day saying I'm gonna get my hand bitten off. And you know, that's not an unfair statement to make if people have had a bad experience with a horse being nippy, a horse being rude with food, a horse not taking it properly. But the key to positive reinforcement is we have to understand that we're teaching behaviors, and how to handle food and how to take food and how to be around food is a behavior that we need to train. And so before I teach her anything else, the very first thing she needs to learn is how to behave around food. Now, I've been doing this with my other horses. I have some hilarious reels with Wolf and bloopers. I haven't put them into reels yet, so I should say they were my TikToks, because without context, the comments in reels can just be kind of insane. But it's really important to start teaching them how we want them to behave. So there's a lot that goes into this. So the first thing is, I'm never going to work with her when she's hungry. Now, that's not really a problem for my horses because they have 24/7 access to food. I also always make sure that there is another source of food available so that she's not relying on my food pouch, and that her ability to eat is not contingent on a behavior. As she gets more comfortable with this, we can take the other food source away, but you know, for now we're just starting and making it as easy as possible on her. And the other thing, and it's a big misconception, is I'm not giving her treats. I'm giving her hay and alfalfa pellets all chopped up, and I do have some carrots just in case we do something really hard to give her a little bit more high value. But again, we want the food that we're giving them to reinforce the correct behaviors to match the food that they're eating, so that there's no, in terms of value, so there's no stress where they're just getting so stressed out because they have to have what's in the pouch. So this is foundational to stay safe, is to first of all not create stress with food. And the other thing that we do is we work in protected contact. And that's not because I'm afraid of my horse, but I do put a fence between us when we're starting to learn the behaviors, because that fence prevents them from physically being able to push on me. It sets a confusing message to a horse if you are clicking and reinforcing a behavior while you're also correcting them. And that just confuses them, and then you don't have proper training. So the thing with the fence is she physically can't do it, and if her head does come over, I can actually take a step back. And I know for the traditionalists, they're going to tell me, your horse just moved your feet. That's not what we're doing here. I am teaching her a behavior that I want with food. It's not about who's moving whose feet. It's about how I want her to stand and position her body and the space I want between us before she gets anything. And let me tell you, they learn that really quickly. It doesn't matter whose feet's moving, because she's gonna learn there's only one way that she's gonna get what's in my pouch, and that is to stand in a certain position. And that's all we're working on today. I have a reel earlier where I was showing how I was teaching her and pairing the sound of the clicker with the food, and so I did not use my voice in that because I want to be very clear that the clicker meant food was coming. She now knows that's the case, and so now I can praise her afterwards, but I'm still going to let her know she got it right with the click, because that's unmistakable. And the other reason we have the click between giving her the food is because the click happens the minute she gets it right, but it can take me a few seconds or moments to actually get the food. Once they've learned click means food, then they know that the click means they got it right, even if the food takes a bit longer. So come along and watch. Here's the hay that I'm setting up for her, and it's very close to where we're going to be working, and I'm going to be on the other side of that fence. The reason I have a tub set up on the fence to give her food reinforcers is because this is all part of establishing the calm, well-mannered behaviors that I want to see when she takes food. Eventually that's going to move away too, when I'm confident that she knows how to stand far away from me and not be pushy. Now, I've had to skip this a little bit to get basic handling, like getting a halter on her and working with the farrier. And in those situations, I have given her food with my hand because there's no tub there. And I have taught her away. So she knows to turn her head away from my body, but it's not perfect. So I'm in this session, since we're teaching her basic handling, we are starting at the very basics and foundation. And until I'm 100% confident that she can take the food in a respectful manner away from my body and keep her body away from my body, we're gonna work with the tub. Since we're just starting this, you're gonna notice that my rate of reinforcement with her is extremely high. Some people might call it obnoxiously high, but what I'm trying to teach her right now is just one simple step. Sometimes watching positive reinforcement training can feel like watching paint dry because we break it down into such small steps. And there's two aspects to any behavior. One is the behavior itself, and the second is building in duration. Well, until she learns the behavior, I can't build in duration. And that's why I'm going to be reinforcing her constantly until she understands the position that I want her to be in. What I would like her to be is beside the fence like this, with her head relaxed, her body relaxed, just in a relaxed position, not leaning into me, so that she knows that this means this is where the reinforcement's going to come. And that's eventually going to teach her that that's how she's going to tell me when she's ready to learn something else. But we're not there yet. We're just going to try to teach this behavior today. And the second she gets it, she's going to get reinforced. Every time she gets it, she's going to get reinforced. Eventually, when we build in duration, how long can you stay there? But she's not there yet. So we just got to teach her the behavior today. And so for that, the reinforcement is going to be really, really high. For all of you who say, oh, you're just giving her so many cookies. Anyway, just again to remind you, it's not a cookie, it's a little bit of hay. All right, let's get her out here. As soon as I opened the gate, she came out without any prodding at all. She's getting much more comfortable out here. Now, she doesn't know yet what the behavior is that I'm looking for, and what I'm doing is just catching her in the act. The moment that she lines her head up with her body and is nice and straight, I click, and then I reinforce it. She's still not quite getting it. As you can see, she'll be moving her head around. You can see here she moves it away or into me, and obviously I'm not going to reinforce that. But the second she comes in the right position, I click. And you'll notice the food comes quite a bit later, so that's why the click is super important. Because without the click, then she would think the food meant she got it right. And by the time I got the food to her, she's already doing something else. Since she's been trained that the sound of the click means food's coming, she now associates the click with having got it right. This allows me to be really precise about the behavior that I'm marking. And even though this is completely different than pressure and release, the one thing that it does have in common with it is timing. You have to time it correctly. I've just been catching her in the act every time she naturally puts her head in that position. And that's when I click and reinforce. If she turns away or turns into me, I ignore that behavior. And I only do it when she gets it right. But watch, she's about to figure this out and actually do it on purpose. You can hear me getting so excited and happy with her here. Once she figured it out, I decided it was time to end the session on a good note. I let her do it a few more times, and then I gave her the end of session signal, which was all done, and jackpotted her. When I'm watching this after the fact, it's kind of weird how the camera distorted the angles a little bit, because when I was working with her, she was definitely, her head was parallel to me, but then when I looked at how the camera picked it up from that angle, it looked like she might have been turned into me. But from where we were standing, she was definitely parallel with me, and I was really looking at where her head was in relation to my body. What I wanted to teach her was that nice soft position and her head parallel to me. And you'll notice that I clicked and reinforced every single time her head went in that position. even though she wasn't intending it. And by the end of it, she was starting to figure it out. There were a couple of them there where you can see her start to move her head and deliberately choose to put her head back. When she did that about 3 times, I decided, okay, this is where we end it. When she was done her jackpot, she went to her supply of hay. I removed the treat pouch from my hip before I came into the arena with her. So she did leave a couple of times during our session, and that was okay. And what you'll notice is she never really got pushy. She never got agitated, and I kept the session super, super, super short. So we are still gonna be working on this for a little while, just getting the position. It was pretty good today. It was pretty rudimentary too. I'm not asking for perfection or finesse right now, just the basic understanding of where her head was and the position I wanted her, like her whole softness in her body. We can start to work on how I want her to line herself up as we progress, and then start to ask her for duration. So what I mean by duration is I don't click until she holds it for maybe 2 seconds instead of as soon as she gets there. So we're gonna keep working on this. I'm not gonna take you through every single training session with her, but I thought it would be just fun to sort of see how we're starting. And I'm really looking forward to, in a few months, showing you where we're at. And I will show some progress along the way, but she's really, really smart, and I think we're gonna come a long way. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back.